When the system pushes you out, build your own door. I want to tell you about someone who's changing lives. Her name is Tara Simmons, and she's not just an advocate, she's a disruptor, a truth teller, and a fierce champion for Black women who've been systematically excluded from traditional employment. Tara Simmons is reshaping how we understand economic exclusion, resilience, and the radical power of entrepreneurship as a healing practice. She's building bridges where walls once stood, and her work is transforming the way Black women see themselves in the economy. Today, I want to share what she taught me about turning what looks like devastation into a divine invitation. Let me start with a truth that might shock you. Right now, in this moment in 2025, Black women are losing jobs at three times the rate of other groups. Three times. We're talking about federal positions, education roles, care sector work, the very jobs that so many of us poured our hearts into, believing that if we just worked hard enough, showed up consistently enough, proved ourselves over and over again, we'd finally be secure. We'd finally be seen. We'd finally be valued. But here's the part that might break your heart and then rebuild it in the same breath. By the end of 2025, Black women held 113,000 fewer jobs than they did at the start of the year. That's not a statistic. That's entire communities of women, mothers, daughters, sisters, aunties who were told their services were no longer needed. The sectors hit hardest: service roles, professional positions, care work, the very places where Black women have historically shown up, held things together, kept systems running, and made everyone else look good. And here's the twist that Tara Simmons helped me see, the counterintuitive truth that I need you to really hear. This crisis, as painful and destabilizing as it is actually accelerating a shift. Black women aren't just surviving this moment, they're flipping it. They're walking away from systems that never truly valued them and stepping into entrepreneurship, not as a backup plan, not as a side hustle to make ends meet, but as an act of reclaiming agency, building resilience, and choosing themselves with intention and power. That's the disruptive truth I want us to sit with today. What if the very thing that feels like rejection is actually redirection? What if being pushed out of traditional employment isn't the end of your story, but the beginning of your most powerful, most authentic chapter? Now, I know some of you are sitting here thinking that sounds beautiful, but I just lost my job. I have bills stacking up. I have responsibilities pressing down on me. I have people depending on me. I don't have time for inspirational speeches. And I hear you, sis. I really, really do. But stay with me because what Tara Simmons shared with me isn't just theory, it's not just motivational talk. It's backed by real programs, real funding, real women who are building businesses, creating jobs, and generating wealth right now in the middle of uncertainty, in the middle of systems collapsing, in the middle of what feels like chaos. Let's talk about what's actually happening on the ground because this is where hope becomes strategy. In Canada, there's a program called the Black Entrepreneurship Program, and it's doing something revolutionary. It's not just handing out loans and hoping for the best. It's not just putting a band aid on a wound that requires surgery. It's building entire ecosystems, mentorship, training, networks, capital, designed specifically to help Black entrepreneurs overcome the barriers that have kept us out of business ownership for generations. And it's working. It's actually working. Let me tell you about three real examples that Tara Simmons walked me through because these aren't just data points, these are blueprints for what's possible when we stop waiting for permission and start building our own tables, our own rooms, our own entire buildings. First, there's the African Canadian Civic Engagement Council in Alberta. They run something called the ANZA Entrepreneurship Ecosystem Program. This program was created specifically for Black youth and early stage entrepreneurs who are facing the same systemic barriers we've been talking about. Limited access to capital, no mentorship, no networks, no one who looks like them in the rooms where decisions get made. The government invested $1.5 million into this program. And what did they do with it? They didn't just talk about equity, they delivered training, mentorship, and guidance that help people build revenue ready businesses, not just ideas scribbled on napkins, not just dreams floating in the air, actual businesses that generate income, create jobs, and shift the economic landscape. Over 250 employment and skill training opportunities were created through this program. That's 250 people who now have pathways to economic stability that didn't exist before. That's 250 families whose futures just changed. And here's the beautiful, powerful part: these aren't just businesses, they're community anchors. They're places where people reinvest locally, hire locally, mentor the next generation, and build generational wealth that breaks cycles of poverty and exclusion. Then there's the Black Business Ventures Association, also in Alberta. They're tackling a different but equally critical challenge: making Black led businesses investment ready. Because here's the thing that nobody wants to say out loud: you can have the best idea in the world, you can have passion, vision, and work ethic that would put anyone to shame. But if you don't know how to pitch your idea in the language that investors understand, if you don't have the financial literacy to manage growth, if you don't have access to the networks where deals get made over golf games and dinner parties you were never invited to, you're going to struggle. You're going to hit walls that have nothing to do with your talent or your potential. The Black Business Ventures Association provides business training, networking opportunities, and skills development specifically designed to address the bias and discrimination that Black entrepreneurs face when trying to access capital. They're partnering with major banks, RBC, CIBC, institutions that historically locked us out, to create pathways that didn't exist before. And the result: Black founders who are scaling, competing globally, creating jobs in their communities, and proving that when you remove the barriers, Black excellence doesn't just show up, it dominates. And finally, there's the Black Entrepreneurship Program itself, which has been renewed with $189 million through 2030. Let that number sink in. This program is providing loans up to $250,000 combined with mentorship and advisory services to help Black entrepreneurs start and scale businesses. They're working with organizations like the Federation of African Canadian Economics to address the reality that Black entrepreneurs, especially Black women, face higher rejection rates for financing and lack the informal investor networks that other groups take for granted. This program has already disbursed tens of millions of dollars in loans, helping tens of thousands of entrepreneurs launch and grow businesses in the middle of one of the toughest job markets we've seen in years. Now, I want to pause here and ask you something. What do all three of these examples have in common? They're not waiting for the system to fix itself. They're not hoping that one day traditional employers will suddenly wake up and see the value in Black women. They're building new systems. They're creating new pathways. They're saying, if you won't make room for us, we'll build our own rooms, our own buildings, our own entire cities. And that, sis, is what Tara Simmons calls embracing entrepreneurship as healing and empowerment. Because here's the truth that nobody talks about: job market exclusion for Black women isn't just an economic issue. It's not just about paychecks and benefits, it's a spiritual issue, it's an emotional issue, it's a trauma that tells us we're not enough, we're not valuable, we're disposable, we're replaceable. It's a wound that cuts deep into our sense of worth and belonging. But when we flip that narrative, when we take that exclusion and turn it into an invitation to build something rooted in our own resilience, our own faith, our own vision, our own values, We're not just starting businesses, we're reclaiming our power. We're healing from the lie that our worth is tied to someone else's approval, someone else's validation, someone else's permission. Tara Simmons also taught me about the importance of leveraging uh, community ecosystems for scaling because entrepreneurship can feel lonely, especially when you're starting from scratch, especially when you're the first in your family to take this leap, especially when you don't have a safety net. But programs like the Black Entrepreneurship Program prove that you don't have to do this alone. There are mentors waiting to guide you. There are networks ready to connect you. There are funding sources designed specifically to help you overcome the capital barriers that have kept Black women out of business ownership for far too long. The key is knowing where to look and being willing to ask for help, to be vulnerable enough to say, I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to learn. And here's the third insight that Tara Simmons shared, and it's the one that hit me the hardest. Practice daily courage through movement and faith. Healing from trauma, from economic setbacks, from the weight of carrying everyone else's expectations on your shoulders. It doesn't happen all at once. It doesn't happen in one big moment of breakthrough. It happens one step at a time, one breath at a time, one choice at a time. You don't have to have it all figured out today. You don't have to have a perfect business plan or a flawless pitch deck or all the money you need. You just have to be willing to take the next step, trusting that God will meet you in the movement, that faith will carry you when your strength runs out. I know this personally. In 2009, I experienced my own breaking point. I didn't have language for trauma or nervous system overwhelm back then. But my body made it clear that the way I was living wasn't sustainable. What brought me back wasn't just rest, it was movement, endurance, faith, and purpose. I learned that healing involves restoring dignity, safety, and agency, especially for those of us who feel vulnerable or unseen. And that's exactly what entrepreneurship can offer Black women right now. It's not just about making money, it's about reclaiming dignity. It's about building something that reflects your values, your vision, your voice, your truth. So here's my question for you, and I want you to sit with this, really sit with it. What if today's job loss is your divine signal to flip it? What if this moment of implied powerlessness is actually your invitation to start living and loving fearlessly? What if the system pushing you out is God making room for something bigger, something better, something that's actually yours, something that no one can take away from you? I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying you won't have moments of doubt, fear, exhaustion, or wanting to give up. But I am saying that you don't have to stay stuck in the story that someone else wrote for you. You can write a new one. You can be the author of your own narrative, and you don't have to do it alone. Because here's what Tara Simmons and these programs are proving every single day. When Black women are given the resources, the support, and the space to build, we don't just survive, we thrive. We create jobs, we generate wealth, we transform communities. We become the very thing the system said we could never be. So let's flip it, sis. Let's turn this moment of exclusion into an era of empowerment. Let's trade survival mode for sacred softness. Let's build businesses that heal us, sustain us, and honor the ancestors who paved the way. Let's choose courage one step at a time, trusting that we are exactly where we're supposed to be. Here's what I need you to do: not tomorrow, not next week, today, right now. I need you to commit to one bold step, just one. Maybe it's researching a mentorship program like the ones I just described. Maybe it's mapping out your resilience practice. What are the daily habits, the spiritual anchors, the movement practices that keep you grounded when everything feels uncertain? Maybe it's finally pitching that business idea you've been sitting on. even if it feels scary, even if you're not sure you're ready, even if your voice shakes when you say it out loud. Take that step and then watch God meet you in the movement, because the world doesn't need you to stay small. The world doesn't need you to keep playing it safe. The world needs you to build, to lead, to disrupt, to flip every narrative that said you couldn't. The world needs your voice, your vision, your courage. So stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for someone to validate your worth. You are the permission. You are the moment. You are the worth. Now go build your door. Build your